What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in review for December 23rd, 2024. 4.0 is live, but it's not. But it's like a preview, but it's not. So it is, but it's not. And we also, with that, get the Mirai Guardian, and because of that, we got a letter from the chairman. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first Week in Review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. So if you like that, get subscribed. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Thanks for always stopping by and saying hi. I really do appreciate it. I would also appreciate it if you let me share with you today's sponsor. Thank you to Boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. They are back for all you armchair developers in the comments. You yourself can become a backend web developer using Boot.dev's innovative and really smart lessons towards your goals. You will learn backend web development from start to finish with Python and Go programming languages, but what makes these lessons so different and cool, honestly, is they use modern game design to create a self-paced but captivating RPG game that will teach you to code. Boot.dev's philosophy is that the smartest way to learn to code is to make sure you're never bored, so that you could stick with it long enough to reach your goals. You can't learn to code without actually writing a lot of it and building real, tangible products. On top of that, they have an active Discord community that will help you if you're stuck, but even help prepare you for technical interviews that may be coming up. They even have a Bear Wizard AI now that will ask you questions to help you understand something you're stuck on, rather than give you the answers. Boot.dev never wants their students to feel like they aren't getting value, so they offer a 30-day no questions asked refund policy, as well as a free demo of every course and its interactive features. So head over to Boot.dev and use my code SaltEMike to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. Once again, code SaltEMike for 25% off your first payment at Boot.dev. And as always, thank you for supporting the sponsors, especially the ones like this that are so in line with the Star Citizen community and how much they enjoy the process of development. But with that, let's hear how Star Citizen progressed this week with some patch notes. And on Monday, 4.0 was still on the PTU, and they start out with hauling missions, and they want to cap the max boxes to 10 in the intro mission so more ships can use them. And then they removed the pip from the auto gimbal UI to avoid confusion and let players know where to aim. They also changed charge bindings to heat bindings for the ammo counter on the MFDs. Then Tuesday, a pretty big change here. They finally raised the quantum travel fuel for a lot of ships. I had a pretty nice experience with this. It was about 1 million quantum fuel for smaller ships now, which feels pretty good. I can get across the system, and then I have to refuel, but I can't really go back and forth. So it feels good in my opinion. How do you like it? If you start to use larger ships, it doesn't feel like you're refueling much at all. So we'll have to see. Wednesday, 4.0 PTU. This only has bug fixes as the final push to live is coming at this point. A major fix is in and hopefully sticks the landing with resolving issues around players that have high ping, having an extremely high time to kill, making them seem like bullet sponges. They also said they fixed the C2 ramp issues, and yeah, they didn't. And some issues resolved around the key cards in contested zones. Then Thursday, we had a hot fix. They just fixed a few items and some crashes, but as you already know, they had their minds made up at this point. It was going live. So with that came a letter for the chairman. So I'm just going to jump right into this one like Chris did. Right away, he let us know that they're going to maintain 2 live servers now, 324.3 and the 4.0 preview channel. They state this is because they didn't get the mission refactor done, but it's probably a lot more than that. There are a ton of bugs around contested zones, hangars, elevators, airlocks, NPCs, and more. This is being done for a couple of reasons. They want to say they did it, that they made server meshing, and they did it in 2024. They want to sell the Mirai Guardian, which is in this patch. More on that later. And lastly, they kind of want out of, like, just if things go wrong, right? They want to say, oops, no big deal. It's not really live. So if it releases as bad as 318, Spoiler alert, it did not. They have a backup plan. 324 is still there to play. You're not locked out of the game completely like we were at the beginning of last year. It is a real, or I guess at the beginning of this year, right? It is a really smart move where hopefully nobody loses, and here's why. They're going to attempt to save our progress from this preview. So if you're playing 4.0 now, your progress might, probably, most likely will stay, and whenever they call it officially live, it'll be there. So whenever 324 goes down and it's gone forever, then it'll work. It's not really live. It's not really live light. It's live, but it's light because it's 4.0 light, right? It's missing a lot of things that would be 4.0 things, right? So it just gives them the out to say, oops, it failed, but you have something to play. Then Chris goes on to share all of the features of the patch that many of us already know. So link is in the description if you really want to read the whole thing, and I suggest you do, but I'm going to pick out one feature that I haven't spoken about much on this channel yet. Reputation is in. If you do missions for headhunters, you lose rep with Citizens for Prosperity, and vice versa. This will prevent you from landing at settlements that you have low rep with. So it's kind of neat that you have to make choices now, and you might choose headhunters because you buy stuff from them and not from Citizens for Prosperity. And then he goes on to share something they've tried in the past, and that's shifting their development a bit to deliver a better experience to their players. Chris admits the way they've been doing things just causes way too many issues. They're going to separate features from content and fixes. The best example here is the cargo refactor, and look how long that took, right? With this, it would sit in tech preview before it ever ruined the player experience like it has. I assume in the very near future, we'll be seeing things like engineering and ship armor show up in a preview test, would be my guess, right? And lastly, they go into wanting to have more stable releases, but also more focused releases. They give Overdrive and Save Stanton as examples. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I hope it's more like the Bounty Hunter patch where they focus on that like kind of heavily. So maybe rework QEDs and how they work. Add those handcuffs from CitizenCon 2023. All in all, I always take anything this guy says with the biggest grain of salt. But if they deliver on a lot of this, it will probably be a while before the game is really ready, but it will be a lot easier to enjoy yourself while you're along for the ride, I guess. There's no winning here, right? For anybody. This is going to be a long process, and it's not going to be fun all the time, right? But it sounds like they want to at least make it less painful. Then Thursday went live. This is clearly the culmination of all the updates we've seen, and as for the launch, it did go fairly well, all things considered, right? Things completely didn't fall on their head right away. But of course, as time went on, things started to crumble. I heard people had login issues and queues of 3,000 players, things like that. Somebody actually tried to tell me that that was like, look, Star Citizen is a real MMO. You said it never would be. No, it's because their login servers failed, dude. That's why. Missions started to fail more and more. NPCs stopped spawning, all the fun stuff, right? I experienced quite a bit of jank, but when I played, the server was never below 30 frames per second. This has to count for something, right? They also added the Mirai Guardian, which I'll go in a lot more details in other updates, so we'll get to that. My experience went as followed. I simply tried to engage with the two most important features as much as I could. Server meshing, which was easy, just play, and there's 6 times the people in your game than ever before. But the mission refactor, as stated in the letter for the chairman, was less than easy. I had around a 50% success rate, and I was going to say failure rate, but I'm trying to be less negative all the time because I know it rubs you guys the wrong way. So I said success instead of failure. And I tried all types of missions. Cargo, avoid outposts if you can. I was definitely like less than 50% on these, but finishing at stations worked. Salvage, while I was doing that worked okay. And then while I was doing a combat beacon for Citizens for Prosperity, I got into a little PvP. 2 guys showed up and I really don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Are you shooting people on sight in Pyro? I felt like even though they didn't fire the first shots, I kind of had to. So just let me know what you're feeling and the vibes you're getting from Pyro, but it feels like just shoot on sight for now. And I think the reason for that is because we don't have VoIP. If we had VoIP and I could hail them, it would be a little less bad. I did manage to get to rank 2 for Citizens for Prosperity, and there are very few missions for them at the second level. I was doing bounties, and that's really all I had, right? It was just a bounty with some extra flare text about a cargo ship having weapons trade inside of it. And hopefully one day it'll just be more than flare, and I'll actually be able to loot that stuff or something, right? And then Friday through the weekend, we had hot fixes. And because this thing was was basically one, probably never going or never ready to go live, and two, needed more people to break things so they could fix it, we had more issues like quantum travel breaking, missions breaking, and more. And a number of hotfixes were deployed and eventually put into a hotfix like version, and then that version was put into live. So, you know, if you're just coming to it now, it's just going to be the live with quotations around it version 4.0_preview. And then the launch was a lot better than I expected. All right, I don't know. I'm just feeling like this could have been like 3.18 and it wasn't. The bar is really, really low, but if things are good, I want to say that they're good, and some things are good. I know most things don't work. I know many features are either not working or not in as deep as we want them to be. But meshing kind of works, and I'm seeing more players than I ever had before. The game is starting to feel a little bit more alive, which is crazy, and that's good. So I want to say good things about the good things, but obviously, a lot of stuff is missing from this. And then lastly, we had a launcher update with some fixes, but also a new Pyro themed background, which looks pretty cool. And the music is still the same, though. It's the old stuff. So feature request here, get that Pedro music from Pyro in there. That would be pretty sick. And jumping into other updates, we start out with a sneak peek as always, and this was a kind of wild one. It actually was a true sneak peek. This just looks insanely alien, and it has udders that are blue. Blue milk, anyone? I don't think creatures really have hit their stride yet, right? I think once whatever we're collecting from them, if that stuff becomes useful for crafting and other things, then it's going to be so cool to search certain biomes and actually go hunting, monster hunting, like they talked about at CitizenCon, right? And then the Mirai Guardian is basically CIG's attempt to get people to buy a ship because it looks like a Star Wars ship. But for now, because it doesn't do a lot of things that it could do well if certain gameplay existed, right? Its biggest selling point is that it has 2 size 5 guns, but they don't feel so strong yet, to be honest, because we don't have things like armor and that kind of stuff, where a bigger gun would probably penetrate more armor, and smaller guns would shrug off more types of rounds. So I feel like this thing will hit its stride eventually. There are 2 variants, though. The Key, which is the QED version, and then the regular. And the Key is, it's QED. So it's just basically there to prevent players from running away, but it doesn't fly that fast, so it's a little bit weird. And then I did a number of defend missions in Pyro with both variants. Now, it felt okay. I wasn't personally in love with it. I'm not that good of a pilot or a player, and I hear some players are doing well with it, so sound off in the comments with skill issue if you're PvPing with this thing and doing really well, and make fun of me. Go ahead. The thing is going to run you a whopping $240 or $230 for Warbond, and $260 or $250 if you want to use any store credit. It is not cheap, but I'll say this: the next time a ship launches extremely overpowered and I get mad about it, remind me about this one, because it didn't go that well. We also got a Q&A for the Guardian, and they start out with how it does compared to its competitors. It has the strongest thrusters, but the most hydrogen fuel consumption, which might matter one day. It has a good QT drive as well, so the Scorpius kind of sounds meh in this description, but the Vanguard is a bit of a balanced ship, right? For speed, it is the most agile, but not the fastest, and that goes to the Scorpius. So that's where the Scorpius kind of sticks out, is its pure speed. And then when comparing the size 5 to size 4 weapons, they sort of share the role of the ship. They want it to be focusing on more multi-crew ships, the slower ships. But I struggled against smaller ships in the PU, and they were AI. So I'm sure this is just a skill issue, but we'll have to see. Also, thinking about the Key and the QED, maybe there's going to be different types of QEDs that can lock down different size ships or something, and then maybe a heavy ship with a QED might matter more. We'll have to see. Then the Paladin Q&A came out, and this was from that controversial thread that I had some fun reading over. Check that out on the React channel if you haven't yet. The first one addresses a lot of issues, and many of you called it. The Redeemer is going to be maneuverable, and while the Paladin is just going to have firepower. Now, I purposely put the Guardian stuff first, right? Because that's supposed to be the most maneuverable heavy fighter, and it feels like a whale. How do you think the Redeemer is going to feel? Master Modes is currently, well, at least it feels like to me, a DPS race. And again, I'm not the best pilot, so until it doesn't, it's hard to see the value in maneuverability on a gunship or just a ship like the Redeemer and how the Redeemer flies. It could be more maneuverable than one ship, but if it's not maneuverable, it doesn't really matter, right? To the same effect, they address the shield differences. The Paladin has one size 3, while the Redeemer will have 6 size 2s. They're saying this is going to be better for regen rates, but this one is tough. Until engineering and a lot bigger changes happen, it's hard to tell how this is going to play out. Then crazy thing, it's already in production. So another picture of a ship that will be finished before the one that you paid for 6 years ago. Sweet. Thanks, CIG. Then they say the ship is well armored. So it's fast and armored. Okay, they're really trying to sell this thing. And lastly, they talk about the weapons and how they'll work. To them, it's all about angles. You can't fire at 180 degrees from the pilot seat. So if you have gunners, it'll make up for your lack of maneuverability, I guess, and less of an issue since you may not need to get nose on target. Also, the turret is 2 Mirai Guardians. Just saying. Okay. Then for dev posts, we had 4.0 patch watch for the economy. And there are 2 posts here I want to share with you. The first one being the economy 4.0 patch watch post, right? For this, they jump right into it with bad news. Any weapons you take off ships will now be extremely cheap if you try to sell them to an NPC station for now, since there's basically a really bad exploit. Then they share a few new minables, and that we'll find around Pyro, as stated in this post. They're exclusive, but super weird and very gamey. And that's okay for now, I guess, but I seriously doubt there's no ice in Stanton asteroid belts, you know? It's a little bit weird, like especially off a place like Yella that looks like ice. So then they share with us how these minables are being distributed from hot to cold. Closest to the star equals hot, which will have dense materials like gold and tungsten. And then when further away, that equals cold. So things like ice. It's starting to be, or at least they're trying to make it easier to find commodities that you're looking for. And then the best in show mess continues. So this is only here for a little comedy, but someone has 86 best in show paints. Yeah, it's basically what I've been reporting for the last 3 weeks now. Whatever system they're using is busted, and Xylo let us know that they know. The Ion is not nerfed. It's actually buffed, or it's getting a buff. The Ion is nerfed thread that we talked about last week. Yogi replies to and let us know more details on some of the updates they planned for the ship. It's getting buffed for sure. It's going to lose its charge mechanic, and it will now be full auto. On top of that, they're saying when the armor roll kind of comes in, this ship will shine. Look forward to seeing how that kind of works, and yeah, putting this Ares mess to rest, right? And that would be really nice. And then the Galactapedia. So the main article is kind of cool. It's the history of Bob, the first Banu to make contact with humans. So if you're into that kind of stuff and you want to learn more, I won't spoil it. Link is in the description. The rest were more just company profiles for clothing and armor companies, so nothing special there, but maybe related to some of the clothing and armor reworks shown at CitizenCon. We'll have to see. And then Jump Point. If you're a subscriber, you have access to Jump Point magazine, but this edition is just a look back at what the team did this year for the most part. And yeah, it was a short Jump Point, let's just say. And then the Mirai Guardian, they did a little look into the development of that. Link is in the description if you're interested, though. Luminalia gifts, if you haven't yet, get your free Luminalia gift at the link below in the description. You can get them in retrospect, but I'm not sure if the page will be available by the time you are seeing this post. So that warning, I don't know if it's going to work out for you. But on Monday, we got the double paints for the 400i. On Tuesday, we got a weird purple Coda pistol, which doesn't quite fit the theme, does it? It's the only purple thing that we got. Double paints on Wednesday for the Ursa. Thursday was a red Cardinal rifle. Friday was my favorite this year so far. Double paints for the Gladius. And then probably my second favorite was the BR2 Permafrost paint. And then on Sunday, well, I actually don't know what it is yet. So yeah, I'm recording this Saturday night because I have a lot of holiday get-togethers with family. So I'm not going to be able to see Sundays before recording this, but it will be in the footage. So hopefully it's cool. We'll have to find out. But with that, guys, I want to wish you a happy holiday and yeah, a good way to end the year, I would say. That's sort of how it feels. It could have been worse. I called for a delay to 4.0, and I think this is kind of the best middle ground. And a delay would have been bad, right? A horrible launch would have been bad. This is somewhere in the middle. And it's kind of working for me for right now. But I imagine as these servers stay up over the holidays, and we have seen, you know, Galactapedia posting on Spectrum, Proxys is working. Like, all these guys are still maintaining. But what happens when they actually take their holiday break? We'll see if this thing holds up. But I'm enjoying it so far for what it is. But it is 4.0 light to me in terms of the features. And I don't know, that letter for the chairman, it's hard to believe this guy, man. It's hard to believe this guy. But what he's saying sounds like it makes sense, and it would work if they actually do it. Will they do it? Hard to say. But with that, thank you so much for watching once again. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. And yeah, hit subscribe, comment on anything that we talked about today, and be respectful if you can. And yeah, leave a like, all that stuff, and we'll catch you guys maybe next week, but if not, next year.